Hi, folks. Ryan Honeyman here from Lift Economy. Many folks have come to us over the last 10 years and asked, how do I get more involved in creating an economy that works for the benefit of all life? They also ask, what skills and experiences do I need to help make this transition? So 3 years ago, we created something called the Next Economy MBA to help address this and similar questions. Lift Economy's Next Economy MBA is an online course that's designed for entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, students, recent graduates, employees, and folks who want to learn more about transformational next economy strategies and businesses. Join the growing alumni network of nearly 250 alumni who've gone through this program and learned essential skills and hopefully built lifelong relationships for catalyzing businesses in the emergent and regenerative economy. So we encourage you to check out our course. You can go to lifteconomy.com/MBA. The next course, Cohort 7, starts on September 21st, 2021. So once again, go to www.lifteconomy.com/MBA. And now, on with the show. Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
Welcome, Darrie.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm really happy to be talking with you on this podcast.
Me too. I must say that amongst all the projects that we get to interact with at Lift Economy, there's a few that stand out to me as being especially important and timely. And timely in a couple of ways, in that there's some of the pressing crises of our time of acute suffering in the world, and there's certain projects that we've become aware of or been tracking that have existed sometimes for years or even decades that have created a track record of incredible success in doing something very important, and yet for whatever reason are still not well known, or as well known as I think they deserve to be. And I think I told you this one time, Darrie, when we met, that Sean Barry, the co-founder of Lift Economy, and I were working with an NGO called the Urban Alliance for Sustainability, where we did film nights about what we called solution projects or solutionary projects, things that we thought were really important. And we'd host these discussions with the community, and it was in San Francisco. And one night, and believe it or not, we were using VHS tapes and a screen. And I had gotten my hands on this VHS tape of, it was I think Harrison Ford, as the actor, was narrating the story of the Santa Cruz Homeless Garden Project. And we had the most enlightening and powerful discussion in the room that night about how transformative a garden and farm setting could be for human transformation from an unhomed condition, and how ostensibly the project, how important it was, and how we could imagine, why isn't this everywhere? How can we make this happen everywhere? And so I'm excited to learn more for the Next Economy Now listeners to learn more about the Homeless Garden Project. But before we get into all that, I'm curious about you, and if you could share a little bit about kind of how you found yourself to be part of this project that we're going to talk about in a little bit, the Homeless Garden Project.
Great. I think that's an interesting story. I studied biology at UC Berkeley and was doing research and published a paper on turtle reproductive cycles, and was headed towards a career in doing research, and imagined that I might eventually become a professor of biology. And I took a pause and had 2 children. And at that time, I really felt like I was the luckiest person in the world to have these 2 beautiful children and a home. And I really wanted to find a way to give back to the community. And I just had this incredible desire to contribute in a meaningful way and in a solution oriented way. And I did a lot of reading during that period when I was still able to be home with my children. I found this writer named Miles Horton, and he wrote a book called Unearthing Seeds of Fire. And he was also many years before me searching for a way that he could contribute that would be meaningful in making social change. And what he came up with was that the role of somebody who was not actually experiencing a social problem themselves was to bring people together and help them find their own solutions. And I was looking for a way to do that. And I was also really interested in food and farming, and found the Homeless Garden Project when I was doing an internship at the Resource Center for Nonviolence. And I finally made my way there and wanted to contribute and thought, well, the Homeless Garden Project is this beautiful, self-sufficient community with so many elements to it that are worthy and valuable and positive. But I had such a hard time finding it, and maybe I could help get the word out about what's going on at the Homeless Garden Project. So I wanted to do a newsletter, and there was a publication in Santa Cruz called the Comic News, and they at that time allowed people to produce their own content, and then they would distribute it in their Comic News newspaper. It was a very liberal paper, and I went to the circle meeting that the project was holding at that time, which we still to this day, 28 years later, still hold, and was going to invite people on the crew to participate in writing this newsletter with me. And I really imagined that so many people would want to contribute, and, the door would basically be barged down wanting to contribute. And one person did want to. And he wrote the most amazing piece. I really still think it's one of the most valuable pieces of writing about the Homeless Garden Project. And he called it A Day in the Life of the Homeless Garden Project. He was a Vietnam War vet, an amazing writer who had studied English and literature and really worked hard. And I got to know him well and learned a lot about homelessness through our time together. And then I was able to interview virtually everyone on the crew at that time and synthesize their interviews into writing that we used in the newsletter. And it did go out in the Comic News. And then the project hired me to continue working one-on-one with the people on the crew who we call trainees. And then I've just had the wonderful opportunity to fill a lot of different roles and be involved in the evolution of the project since the beginning.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious to, in a moment, have you share for listeners how the project has evolved and what the current training and programs are of the project. But I'm wondering if we could first paint a bit of the backdrop for those who are listening who don't know about Santa Cruz County, the Bay Area, and or the condition of homelessness. And I'm wondering if you could just share a little bit about some of your observations for something that's been shared on The Next Economy Now before. There's a statistic out there frequently referenced by Pras Mikkel that 7 out of 10 Americans are one paycheck away from being homeless. And but for some of us who are listening, that might not be so as self-evident. I'm wondering if you could just characterize what's going on in the Bay Area and in Santa Cruz County now and over the last number of years before we talk about the details of the program.
Right. So I know that Santa Cruz County is, I believe, the 5th largest county of its size. In terms of the relationship of homelessness to the general population. And in the city of Santa Cruz and the county have worked hard for as long as I've been working here at Homeless Garden Project, has worked really hard to address homelessness has had some really innovative initiatives and is working really powerfully with the Housing First initiative. And we don't seem to be making the kind of progress that we'd like to make. Homelessness is complicated, and there's a very visible population of people experiencing homelessness in our community that have alienated a lot of the community and created a ton of stereotypes. We're working with a group of people who want to use our program that can last for up to 1 year to get into jobs and housing. And there are some people who are working with various other initiatives who are chronically homeless, medically vulnerable, and are working to get into permanent supportive housing situations. So I understand best the people that we work with, and yeah.
Thank you for painting some of the picture of what's happening. And I'd love it if you could now share about the programs and how they've evolved. And because I'm so excited about it, if you could also share some of the outcomes and results that the project has experienced historically and currently.
Great. So the project provides our core program, which is connected to other programs, is our job training and transitional employment program. And that is a program that lasts for up to 1 year and offers a really holistic approach to supporting people to make a path out of homelessness. And in that program, the trainees work 9 to 2, Tuesday through Friday, so 20 hours a week, and are paid minimum wage, which right now is $11 an hour. And they do work and training related to the operation of our farm and enterprises. We have a 3.5 acre organic farm on the west side of Santa Cruz. We're farming on temporary land that has been generously donated all these years since 1995 by a local landowner and his partner. And we sell the produce that we grow through a variety of channels. We have a farm stand where people can come Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 4 and buy whatever is available to harvest. And we have a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture Program, where people become a member of the farm and they come pick up their produce every week, for 23 weeks. And we now have a 4-week extension. We were in fact the first CSA in the county, something that we're all very proud of. It was started in 1992. And we also have a value-added enterprise. And that was started as a way to provide work during the rainy season because we wanted to have no disruption in our program. We wanted to not be leaving people without work during the times when it's the most difficult to be experiencing homelessness. And when the project first started, we were actually laying people off, but then we listened to a lot of the trainees who said, well, let's make wreaths and let's make candles. And they actually brought some prototypes of those products. And we just, in the true Homeless Garden Project fashion, we started really small. And then when something succeeded, we built on that and did it a little bit more until a few years ago, we were operating our holiday store, which ran from the week before Thanksgiving until the end of December. And we met and exceeded every sales goal we had ever set for that store. We were using donated store space in downtown Santa Cruz Center. And we asked the business owner who was allowing us to use the building if we could stay there year round. So now that project has evolved to be a year-round store with also wholesale and online sales channels. Okay, so backing up and giving a better overview, our job training and transitional employment program operates in two enterprises, the farm enterprises and the value-added enterprise. And they both depend on our 3.5-acre farm on the west side of Santa Cruz. And then we have two other programs. One is a support services program, and that is staffed by a licensed clinical social worker who supervises Masters of Social Work students. And these students work with a trainee every week. Each of those students has a caseload, and they work with a trainee every week to talk about what are their goals, how do they want to use this 1-year program so that at the end of the program they have a job and housing. And in the course of those conversations, there's goal setting, there's something, a best practice called motivational interviewing. There's talking about what's getting in the way and trying to find solutions to the barriers that people are experiencing, which can include referrals to other services. And then our last program is called Cultivating Community, and that is our community education and volunteer program. And in that program, people from all over the community, in fact, all over the world, come and volunteer out at the farm and have that experience that comes through volunteering of learning in a very holistic way about agriculture, about addressing problems in your community, and about homelessness. And there's a real opportunity for people to understand the humanity of someone who's homeless and to overcome a lot of stereotypes. So just to go back over those programs and sort of talk about some of our successes. Last year, 100% of the people who graduated from our training program got jobs. 75% of them also got housing. The years before, it was about 92% and 85% prior to that. Last year, we had 2,963 people, almost 3,000 people who volunteered and provided community service through one aspect of the organization. People volunteer, just one time. Some come as individuals, some come as groups. We have volunteers who staff our farm dinners and volunteers who staff our holiday store and our year-round store. We also have office volunteers, and we really try to integrate volunteers through all aspects of the organization as a way of, really creating that capability within the community and as a way of increasing our educational value as an organization. We are actually a certified service enterprise, which is something that comes through the organization Points of Light that really wants to encourage nonprofits to use volunteers to leverage their mission, and has found that service enterprises tend to be far more effective than their peers who are not service enterprises in terms of the outcomes and impacts that they have in the community. And then another way that we think about our success is the amount of income that we're able to generate through our enterprises. And last year we brought in 28% of our income from our enterprises, 23% from the value-added enterprise, and 5% from the farm enterprises. And that was broken down to 3% from our CSA program and 2% from the farm stand.
Every time I hear about the outcomes of the project and the various programs, I'm astounded and inspired. As you mentioned before, homelessness is a complex condition arising from multiple kind of source conditions, the poverty and the associated causative agents of poverty in our society, and illness, mental illness and chronic marginalization in society, and so many other related factors, a complex problem. And the integrated nature of the Homeless Garden project, the integrated programs with this just incredible stacked set of benefits that are created for the community and the participants, the trainees. Those success rates in the high 80s and 90s, or even 100% success rate in jobs in the last year and those are the trainees that started the program and participated for the year, correct?
Those are the people who actually graduated.
Yeah. Well, it's just so impressive to have that degree of success with the participants while creating healthy local organic food for the community and lunches for the trainees, participants, and community, while having the destigmatizing social impact of having nearly 3,000 community members volunteer in the garden farm setting, along with the participant trainees, which starts to get, I think, at maybe the root causes of the complex condition of homelessness, creating those bonds and connection and destigmatization. I mean, so powerful. While creating new enterprises that create goods for both the local community, and then now with an online channel for people who maybe visit Santa Cruz or admire programs and want to see these types of programs and projects spread. It's just a very impressive track record. So thank you for the amazing work that you're doing and continue to do. And
really inspired me to stay and to see how we can continue to bring forth the incredible potential that the project model has to offer. Here are some things that inspire me. One is just how incredibly generous our community is, our donors and volunteers, people. There's stories in the media about people speaking out with anger about homelessness, and there are fewer stories, but we see it every day that people in the community really do care about one another and want to make a difference, and will show up in amazing, powerful ways, creative ways, and really bring their one gift, to bear at Homeless Garden Project. And it really is so inspiring. And I asked Angie what inspires her. Angie's our enterprise manager, and she said, what we grow on the farm inspires her. And honestly, working with Lyft has inspired me a great deal. And really, it's kind of getting back to that, understanding that people have their gift and we're all pulled to give our gift. And all of you at Lyft have just, helped us in tremendous ways with the expertise that you have that we did not have. And then I also have this one quote from Gandhi that has been part of what's guided me here at Homeless Garden Project since the very beginning. And he said, I will give you a talisman. Whenever you are in doubt or when the self becomes too much with you, apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest person you may have seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him. Will she gain anything by it? Will it restore her to a control over her own life and destiny? In other words, will it lead to freedom for the hungry and spiritually starving millions? Then you will find your doubts and yourself melt away. And I'm super inspired by that as well.
Me too. Thank you for sharing that one. I really appreciate that, Darrie. Yeah.
And it's been so inspiring to see the project grow and evolve and become more capable. And to, at one time we were not saying that our goal was that people would get jobs and training. Our goal was that people would increase in well-being, and then they would decide for themselves what was meaningful in terms of a goal.
Mm-hmm.
But secretly, we're always wishing, that people would get jobs, and it made sense as a goal to us. And then I was able to participate in this really wonderful initiative called Working to End Homelessness, National Community of Practice. And it was put together by the National Transitional Jobs Network. And it was a year-long community of practice with 22 agencies who were using transitional jobs as a way of supporting people to transition out of homelessness through work. And I think we were one of 2 organizations out of the 22 who used farming and gardening, and very inspiring, very full of learning. And at the end of that, our organization started talking about, we really are using this transitional job strategy. We're paying people. We're providing time limited work. We should use it as a way to, we should state our audacious goal. We want people to get jobs and housing. And, it's been inspiring to do that. At that time we were operating a 3-year program, and the National Transitional Jobs Network, said that the average program was about 6 months, with the range being 3 to 9 months. So we were far outside that range. And we realized that if we changed our program down to a 1-year program, we could serve 3 times as many people. So we made that transition. And in the process of making that transition, we had to change a lot of our programming and really look at how do we get people right off from the very beginning thinking about where are they going at the end of that year. And I feel that we have refined our program. I'm sure there's more room for refining and improving, but there's been some incredible work that was done that got our program to where it is right now.
And with the refining that's happened and the evolution of the programs to where they are now, you're actually at an interesting moment for the project, in that there's a growth that's going to be happening. I'm wondering if you could share with the listeners what's next imminently for the Homeless Garden Project. And then at some point, I want to also return to the outcomes. We talked about some of the statistics, but I think I'd love for the listeners to also understand the kind of personal transformative aspect of what happens in that year with the trainees. But first, I'm curious if you could share about what's next for the project.
Okay, great. So in 1998, the city of Santa Cruz included Homeless Garden Project as having a permanent site in their 600 plus acre property. It's a greenbelt property known as Pogonip. And the city had done some studies and some land use task force assessments, and had gone forward with an EIR for various uses on this Pogonip property, including a 9-acre farm site for the Homeless Garden Project. And so 1998 was 20 years ago, and it's been patiently awaiting us. At the time, there were some issues that needed to be resolved, especially around water use. And in around 2015, our organization did kind of a couple things in parallel. One was the board decided that they really wanted to see us serving more people over time. They wanted us to eventually triple the number of positions we offered. So this year we're offering 17 positions, and their goal was that within 5 years we would be doubling to 34 positions, and then in another 5 years we would be tripling to 50 positions every year. And the board also decided that they really wanted us to procure a permanent site at Pogonip, and to begin resolving the issues that were preventing us from finalizing our operations and management plan, and then take that plan to the Parks and Rec Department and to the City Council and get approvals for a lease, which happened in 2015. So this year we have been working with a design team, an engineer and a architect who are giving us heavily discounted rates, and designing this beautiful site. There's a west garden component that is laid out in a bed format similar to our Natural Bridges farm site. And then there's an east garden, which is envisioned to be developed later. We want to be very thoughtful about our design and development, and we want to be sure to learn from the land before we take on more development. So we're starting with the west garden. This will be the first time that we've ever developed a site with the knowledge that we're going to be there. We have a 20-year lease with 3 5-year renewable terms. It will also be the first time that we'll have our offices and our farm on the same site, which will create great opportunities and efficiencies that we don't currently have. So we're planning for a barn and a farm center that will have some offices and meeting rooms and a kitchen and classroom space. The farm will be accessible to people with disabilities and wheelchair accessible, which we don't currently offer. And we'll also be, right at the entrance to this beautiful 600-acre park, and really emphasize the opportunity for people to interact with the land. And that was part of the master plan. I'll read you that section when we have a chance later to go back to that.
Wonderful. I'm super excited to see so many of the nonprofits that Lift Economy has the opportunity to work with, especially in the Bay Area, are struggling with having a reliable tenure, having a home, and to know that there's a longer term lease situation in this transition to more space where you can integrate components of the operation and also do some repair work to the land. The development of a garden in a thoughtful way has chances to benefit the environment while producing this food yield. But I happen to know, because we've talked about it a lot, that there's part of the project is to do some restoration or mitigation of the development of the farm to actually restore and enhance the coastal prairie, the grassland in parts of the park. So I'm super excited by all those outcomes to continue the project with these programs that are already successful and just expanding your capacity to be able to work on them. I'm wondering if with those outcomes, I get concerned about listeners or even myself starting to get addicted to the incredible statistical outcomes that you're creating with these programs, because it's so exciting and invigorating to know that you've designed and crafted something that is able to position unhomed population to enter into this program, get trained up, and then have a job, and in many cases housing as well within a year. It's just astounding. But I think the statistics might betray some of the actual transformative aspects of the care that's involved in the services and the other programs that you provide. I'm wondering if that resonates, and if there's anything you want to share to have listeners understand what actually happens in that year with the trainees.
Yeah, that's a really good and important question. The project, there's so many things happening at once that talking about it just really doesn't do it justice. And that's one reason why we have a dinner. We have 2 dinners every year where we invite community members to help support the project by actually spending an afternoon and part of an evening at the farm, eating really delicious food and touring the farm and, just experiencing the healing power of being on the farm. And I can tell you that even after all these years, 27 years, I am still surprised by the feeling that I get when I walk from the street onto the farm. Every time it's a profound feeling of coming home. So that's one aspect. Another is just how all the different elements of, learning and being productive and contributing to the community with the food we grow and trying to set goals and solving people's problems and the community that the trainees have among themselves. I can honestly say that the support that I see that trainees provide to each other is some of the most generous offerings that I've seen in my life. And one of the ways that we try to get this across, how all of these elements come together through the experience of a single person is a lot of our trainees write about their experience on the farm, and those are often posted on our blog. And one of my favorite ones was written by Lily, who was in our program last year. She graduated and is now living, her housing situation is related to her taking care of children who live in the house. And then she also has a job working with people who have developmental disabilities. And last year, we hosted an event that had 200 volunteers from the Permaculture Action Network, and she spoke to all those volunteers about her experience at the project and is posted on our blog, and it's called Here Amongst the Flowers and the Vegetables. And I just want to read you one little quote that she says in her blog post. She says, "Here amongst the flowers and vegetables, we replant our own paths in life. We cry, laugh, and work together. We push forward into all we are destined to become because we have been gifted with the time to grow on the farm at HTP." And then she goes on from there. And you can find, 20 other people who have existed in our program writing on the blog about their experience there. And if you come to one of our dinners, there's always a trainee speaking about their experience too.
It's one of my favorite parts of the project is just building these bridges of connection and in humanizing a population that so often in our society is just marginalized and cast aside.
Yeah.
Darrie, I'm wondering if you could share ways. I'm sure some listeners are thinking about just learning about the Homeless Garden Project and wondering, how they can help, what they can do. And I can think of a few ways, but I'm curious if you could share some ways that people can participate.
Yeah, Homeless Garden Project is definitely designed to be experienced and connected with. We really thrive and depend on people interacting and communicating and volunteering with us. So every connection that we have with the community matters. So we invite people to participate in all of the ways that we offer. One is we have open volunteer hours Thursday and Friday, and we have group volunteer opportunities, and we have various specific volunteer opportunities. Our volunteer coordinator, Justin Wright, his contact information is listed on our website. So you can either just drop into our farm on Thursday and Friday between 10 and 2, or you can contact him and find out more information about volunteering. We depend a large part on contributions from individuals. I think that we're a bit unusual in how much of our support base comes from individuals in the community making personal contributions. And there's a way to donate directly on our website. I would love to talk to people who are interested in making contributions. Happy to give people a tour of our new permanent site at Poganip and talk about how they can be involved in that capital campaign. We also really encourage people to become involved as customers. We have our value-added store, which is currently located in the Cooper House Breezeway on Pacific Avenue. it's a really lovely store with all of the products we make in our training program, as well as some products made by local artisans who sell their products and then contribute part of the income to the Homeless Garden Project. We also hold regular events there on first Friday and sometimes on the third Friday of the month. And you actually spoke at one of those.
I did, yeah.
A special event where you spoke about your work with Drawdown. You always have really nice snacks and just a great feeling of community at those events. Our value add enterprise also has some wholesale accounts locally, and we're kind of spreading out a little bit more. And we're talking with some of the online platforms that sell products made by artisans that have a social mission connected to them. Serve is one example in Uncommon Dreams, and we're hoping to be able to have wholesale accounts there. And then we have our own online store. And with those sales, the great thing is that even if you're local, we can ship it to somebody who lives out of town. And then we have the sales at the farm. We have some great strawberries right now. Really big, juicy, abundant strawberries. And you can buy those at our farm stand Tuesday through Sunday, 10 to 4. And we're also, the farm is really coming on, and we grow a really wide variety of produce and flowers that is available for sale at the farm stand. Farm stand customers are able to harvest their own produce and then pay it on their way out. So it's a really nice opportunity to not only get the freshest local produce that is organic that can be had, but also, really have your own experience getting the produce yourself. And then we also have our CSA program that starts this Friday. CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture, and people come pick up their produce every week for 23 weeks with this new option now of sort of a late fall tag on, which is 4 weeks. And we have a brand new addition, pretty exciting. We are able to accept EBT, electronic benefits transfer payments, for both farm stand produce and for CSA. So that's up on our store site, Homeless Garden Project, shop.homelessgardenproject.org. Oh, we have a great CSA is UPIC or pickup shares. UPIC is a share where you come and harvest it yourself every week, either on Friday afternoon or Saturdays. And then the pickup shares we harvest, our trainees harvest it on Fridays, and then it's all arranged for our CSA members to come pick up every Friday afternoon during the season. Then we have a third kind of share that we call Feed Two Birds. And this is a really nice hybrid. So a donor makes a contribution, and their contribution pays for the training program in part, and then also allows us to basically buy shares from ourselves and distribute them to agencies that work with low-income people. We're working with 10 agencies this year. We have a couple new ones that we're working with. One is a school, Costa Noa Continuation School, that is working with a lot of youth who are experiencing homelessness. And so now they'll be able to come pick up a share of 3 shares of produce every week and use it in their classroom and take it home as well. And then we're also starting to do some outreach to other local schools who might be serving low-income children and their families.
Definitely a multitude of entry points for the community to participate with the project, which I'm sure has evolved over time. And I love that there's so many ways. And for those, just to recapitulate, for those listeners who are not local to the Bay Area and maybe who don't visit Santa Cruz or haven't yet, the website, you can, as Darrie mentioned, you can use the online store to order products to inspire your local community to develop a similar project and to share around. There's bath and body products and food products available through the website. And I wanted to just accent that strategy of there could be people who listen to this who also know of other places in the Bay Area that might want to retail some of the products. And that might be another way to participate, would be to make that connection to the project. I could imagine that being beneficial. But so many different ways. And I'm excited for Next Economy Now listeners to support a Homeless Garden Project in whatever way makes sense for them, because we need these projects to succeed and become models. And that's one of the, I think I'd love to just hear your thoughts on with this growth. I mean, first things first, let's grow the program per what the board has set out. That's challenging enough. Grow the program, continue the success. But I'm curious, Darrie, what you see in the long future for the Homeless Garden Project. What are some of your dreams and aspirations that you and maybe the board share in terms of what could happen here and everywhere?
Well, we are interested in being able to put out a model for how other communities can do a program similar to ours. We have provided information to other programs similar to ours. We are working with an amazing donor who wants to support sort of a convening of all the farms and gardens in the larger Bay Area who have a social mission. And we are really excited about, when our Pogonant Farm is up and running, holding something sort of similar like to the Eco Farm Conference, the precursor to the Eco Farm Conference, with that focus on learning from each other and sharing information and knowledge about the social mission and social purposes that we all are working towards. We also have started an alumni program, and one of the things that we do notice is that there are two things. One is that people change is a cycle. We all go through ups and downs with changes, and that change can be 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And so we want to be able to be available for people as they continue their journey after they leave the project, and be able to be a resource and a support for people who are no longer affiliated as an employee. So we've started an alumni program, and the current way that manifests is we have a monthly circle meeting with graduates, and we would like to be looking at how to really develop that so that that is a really robust program, and that people, when they leave Homeless Garden Project and move into the community, that they know that there's always an invitation for them to come back if they need or want to. We envision that could be a program where graduates could mentor people who are currently in the program, and that we could be offering learning for how to make advancement in your career and so forth.
I love that idea. Yeah, that sounds like a good, you'd have such a precious container, and the graduates have done such incredible work and development through the program to come back and to have the invitation to share in that way. I think is a really important addition.
Yeah. We also, I'm excited about something that is about using cognitive behavioral therapy in our social work program, and in our overall training program curriculum. We already use motivational interviewing, and that is sort of about the why to make change. And then the cognitive behavioral therapy curriculum is kind of like how to make change. And it's about, understanding that thoughts and feelings and behaviors are all connected, and then learning the skills and practices to use that understanding to meet your goals and keep moving towards your goal. So I'm excited about being able to implement something like that. We have some talk about, other enterprises, but we haven't, we're really focusing on being successful with what we've set out to do now, and with building our farm on Pogonip. I guess one other thing is that, you noticed that last year, 100% of the people in our program got jobs and 75% got housing. And housing is something that is very precious in Santa Cruz County. We're one of the most unaffordable counties to live in. And we're looking for alternatives and strategies to support our trainees to be successful in getting housing. It's not sustainable to, work a full-time job without housing. And we're really aware that people in our program, if they had housing from the outset, they would be in a much more stable position to succeed in working 20 hours a week and setting goals for getting permanent employment.
There's always the expanding set of opportunities to move from something that's working and in the world of complex challenges and a world of wounds and suffering. The repair work kind of never ends. There's so much for us to do. And I love that you're on the case, Darrie, and that the Homeless Garden Project is working to continually refine and enhance and expand. And I'm excited to be tracking and supporting the next economy that we envision at Lift Economy has to work for everybody with no one left out and no one left behind. And programs such as that you offer through the project we see as essential models that even if they're not replicated exactly, replicating them and of course adapting them to the place-based conditions and the cultural conditions that exist in other communities is so critical. And so thank you so much for being and championing and supporting a model that's working. Anybody who's listening, I hope you share some of what I feel when I think about the Homeless Garden Project. We need things that work, and I feel hopeful and alive and enthusiastic about all the work that we're doing for the next economy. The more I hear about the Homeless Garden Project, and the more I experience it. So thank you, Darrie. And I'm wondering if there's any last words that you'd like to share for this podcast.
I had a couple thoughts. One was just to say thank you to Lift Economy. We've really learned so much from our relationship working with Lift. Lift produced a 7-year business plan for the Homeless Garden Project that charted this increase in the number of people we serve, as well as charted how the farm development could increase our farm income as new crops and orchards are coming on. And it's been a wonderful learning experience and really showed that the project is scalable. Really good process to be able to chart a path towards growth that we want to achieve. And in the process of that work that you did with us, you produced that really beautiful drawing. And I know that for me, everything is connected, and it's challenging to speak about something that has so many interconnected pieces. But you produced that one sort of model that showed how all the different parts of our project relate. Do you know the drawing I'm talking about?
I do. Uh-huh.
And if there's any way to have a drawing with this podcast, I think that would be the one. And then there was one other piece I wanted to share with you. There's this beautiful book called Pogonip, Jewel of Santa Cruz, and it talks about the history of Homeless Garden Project and why Homeless Garden Project was included in the final master plan at Pogonip. And it says, In July of 1998, the City of Santa Cruz Parks and Recreation Department issued its final master plan for Pogonip. The plan envisioned mixed use of the Pogonip area. Its stated objective was to foster appreciation and understanding of the natural environment, as well as human interaction within the environment. And you can see how Holmes Garden Project is a wonderful way for people in the community to connect with the environment and really fall in love with the environment. And rather than seeing themselves as something separate from nature, to understand that humans are part of nature and that we have a role in having beneficial relationships with the nature.
Indeed we do, and indeed we are.
Well, thanks, Kevin. I love talking to you, and I feel so supported by you. It really is a gift, like I was saying. I just appreciate you so much and hope that we get to work together forever and ever.
I look forward to it. Yes, I definitely want to continue to be involved in whatever way I can, and I'm a lifelong supporter. I think it's the most important work, some of the most important work happening today. I know it is.
Wow, it means a lot.
Thank you, Darrie, so much for your time, and thank you so much for your work. And we look forward to continue being a support into the future.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.